Welcome to TV Africa News. Thank you so much for joining us. There is being part of us. This is Africa Today. My name is Nahawa Kajur. But first are the headlines. Security operatives arrest SFC deserter over plans to attack police station. President Yoweri Museveni bids farewell to outgoing Ethiopian ambassador Meseret, allows her for strengthening cordial relations. Somali president announces return of soldiers training in Eritrea. Once again, thank you so much for joining us. We start with one of our top stories. Now, police have arrested a Special Forces Command deserter on allegations of plotting to attack Luka Central Police Station. Our reporter Nalugo has more.
The suspect has been identified as Samuel Mulondo, who was arrested yesterday, Wednesday, while impersonating as an Islamic cleric and seated outside Lucas Central Police Station. His arrest followed prudent inquiries by the area police leadership, who became suspicious of Mulondo alias Mulondo Abdu. Police picked interest in Mulondo after he started frequenting the police station for over a week without any viable reasons. One of the officers, who spoke on condition of anonymity, says that they have been tracking Mulondo for the past 3 days and they found out that he wore casual clothing at night and slept in bars while disguising as a Muslim cleric during daytime. He adds that Mulondo was also seen inspecting Luka Police Station on the nights of 19th and 20th December, which prompted his arrest. He further says that at the time of his arrest, Mulondo wore 3 trousers, 2 vests, 1 shirt, a kanzu, cap, had undisclosed documents linking him to the SFC, and a beer bottle which had been hidden in the pocket of his jacket. Samuel Musiho, the Luka Resident District Commissioner, says that Mulondo was masquerading as a Muslim cleric, helping vulnerable people to access justice. Musiho says that Mulondo joined SFC in 2008 and deserted in 2018 with a gun, and he has been on the force's wanted list for close to 5 years now. Musiho adds that Mulondo has been taken to Magamaga military barracks for further interrogation. Mulondo, who was briefly interrogated at Musiho's office before being referred to Magamaga military barracks, reportedly said that he deserted on personal grounds and never harbored intentions of creating harm to both security installations and the entire community at large. There have been several attacks on police stations across the country where some officers have lost lives and a number of guns lost.
Away from that, President Yoweri Museveni has received the outgoing ambassador of Ethiopia to Uganda, Meseret. Now, this was on Tuesday afternoon as the ambassador called on Museveni at State House in Entebbe to bid him farewell after her tour of duty in the country.
At the function, President Museveni thanked the outgoing ambassador for concretizing the already existing cordial relationship between the two sister nations, Uganda and Ethiopia. The president also invited her to later come and visit the East African country. On her part, Ambassador Meseret thanked Museveni and the people of Uganda for warm hospitality, cooperation and support accorded to her during her 4 years of service in the country. Ambassador Meseret also pointed out the relationship between the two countries grew stronger as manifested by the exchange of bilateral visits of the two leaders as well as high-powered delegations of the two countries. The outgoing ambassador observed that Uganda and Ethiopia have enjoyed being strategic partners for long, cementing this relationship by signing strategic partnership agreements and memoranda of understanding in water, trade, tourism, education, and defense, among others.
We take a quick break. We shall come back with international news. Welcome back from the break. I still watching TV Africa, the right to know. In international news, the board of the International Monetary Fund has approved the release of $447.39 million to Kenya. Now, the fund stated in a statement that efforts toward fiscal consolidation had caused Kenya's public debt to level off and that it had given extra money under the existing facility. We have more on this report.
In April of last year, the IMF and the East African country agreed to a 38-month financing arrangement under its Extended Fund Facility and Extended Credit Facility. The most recent payment brings the total to $1.65 billion. According to the IMF, Kenya would now receive a total of $2.416 billion from the present agreement. The increase was agreed upon by both parties last month to cover expenses for external finance due to the drought and difficult global financial conditions. President William Ruto, who took office in September, intends to eliminate costly commercial borrowing in favor of less expensive sources like the World Bank to lessen the burden that debt servicing puts on revenue. This is coming after the IMF announced that it would release $3 billion to Ghana by the first quarter of 2023, according to Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta. The minister claims that the medium-term macroeconomic framework, structural reforms and important fiscal measures included in the 2023 budget are in line with the IMF-supported program.
Away from that, Somalia's President Hassan Sheikh Mohamud said on Monday that soldiers who have been training in Eritrea for months would begin returning to the country in the coming days. Now, for months, rumors have been circulating in Somalia that these soldiers were sent to the war-torn Ethiopian region of Tigray.
Mohamud assured a forum organized by Somali diaspora during his visit to the United States that before the end of this December, the country's soldiers will start to return and in January they will be back. Mohamud, who promised to bring the soldiers home during his spring election campaign, visited them at training camps in Eritrea in July. The families of the soldiers without news of their loved ones protested several times this year during the presidency of Mohamud's predecessor, Mohamud Abdullahi Mohammed, known as Farmajo, demanding information about their fate. The UN Special Rapporteur on Human Rights in Ethiopia, Mohammed Abdesalam, last year referred to reports that Somali soldiers have been moved from military training camps in Eritrea to the front line in Tigray, where they were accompanying Eritrean soldiers supporting federal Ethiopian forces against the rebels. At the end of May, Farmajo said his government had sent about 5,000 soldiers to train in Eritrea. He added that their training was completed last year, but that he had decided to postpone their return to avoid disrupting the parliamentary and presidential elections.
Apart from that, Kenya's leader, William Ruto, today marks his 100th day in office. He came to power casting himself as a champion for the downtrodden. Now, however, ordinary Kenyans feel like their lot has not been improved.
Herman Manyaro, a political analyst who backed Raila Odinga, said that the first 100 days of Ruto would be a disappointment to the extent of the administration not living up to their promises. Since then, the notoriously ambitious politician has been on a publicly overdrive, traveling across the East African nation and beyond while taunting Kenya's economic potential in speeches. Ruto initially promised to restructure the economy by slashing government debt, bringing down prices of essential commodities, and creating a hustler fund to offer personal loans to any Kenyan with a cell phone and a mobile money account. But his first act after assuming office was to slash food and fuel subsidies introduced by his predecessor, Uhuru Kenyatta. While Ruto urged that the interventions had not borne any fruit, their removal was a request from the International Monetary Fund, a major lender to the East African economic powerhouse. According to Ken Gichinga, chief economist at business analysts firm Mentoria Economists, the move to remove the fuel subsidy was not very strategic, as it has led to a slower economy, rising inflation and higher interest rates. Despite a disappointing start, however, Manyura, a political analyst, said that it was too early to dismiss the president and his team.
However, from Ruto, the UN Security Council adopted a resolution on Tuesday relaxing the embargo on arms exports to the Democratic Republic of Congo, a decision hailed by Kinshasa as an injustice repaired.
The resolution removes language that previously required countries to inform the Security Council and its 15 members of any sale of arms or military assistance to the DRC. Kinshasa has long deplored this requirement, saying it created unnecessary bureaucratic obstacle in its fight against armed groups. The DRC has been under a UN armed embargo since 2000. The decision was made at the time of response to the extent of the violence in the Central African country. In 2008, the Security Council amended its sanctions regime to apply only to armed groups, but it still required Kinshasa to notify a monitoring committee of any arms purchases. Earlier this year, the Security Council extended the sanctions regime but reduced the notification requirements for certain arms purchases. Kinshasa has since continued to push for a lifting of the restrictions as the DRC faces an upsurge in clashes with the M23 militia in the east. The Security Council has been pressed to act amid accusations that it was preventing the Congolese military from protecting civilians.
Africa Today takes a quick break. We shall come back with business, health and sports. Welcome back from the break. You're still watching TV Africa, the Brightener. In the business news today, yams are the fifth most widely harvested crop in Nigeria and one of the most expensive to produce. The planting and harvesting processes require significant labor input, yam seeds are expensive, and the supply of seed is limited. We have more on this report.
According to the Permanent Secretary, Federal Ministry of Agriculture and Rural Development, Ernest Umakihe, Nigeria is the leading producer of fresh yams, yet it is unfortunate to note that despite the huge production, the country exports less of the product. He said that if they must have sustainable food security for their teeming population of over 200 million people and have enough to export to other countries, there is a need to critically examine the factors working against the quality production and export of their major commodities, of which yam is one of them. Experts said deliberate action must be taken to move yam production, processing and marketing to the next level in line with international best practices. General Secretary Yam Dealers Association of Nigeria, Hamad Ibrahim Salisu, said that the government should collaborate with relevant stakeholders to resuscitate yam export from Nigeria to boost wealth creation and food security. He noted that the government can help to expand the crop's production by giving fertilizers and loans to farmers and also provide security for them. The agriculture sector in Nigeria employs approximately 60% of the labor force and contributes to over 40% of the country's GDP.
In a health news today, a Gambian parliamentary committee recommended on Tuesday that an Indian pharmaceutical company be banned and prosecuted over the death of at least 70 children. The committee accuses Maiden Pharmaceutical Limited of exporting contaminated products to the country.
Amadou Kamara, chairperson of the Select Committee on Health in Gambia, said that he had received several evidence from several stakeholders, both in the public-private sectors, including the parents of the victims of acute kidney injury. He added that the Select Committee concluded that all the cases of the acute kidney injury are linked to the consumption of contaminated medical products imported by Atlantic Pharmaceutical and manufactured by Maiden Pharmaceuticals Limited, India. He said that the actual cause of the deaths of these children is still under scientific investigations, as casual tests are currently being undertaken by the Minister of Health and Partners. In October, the World Health Organization issued an alert over 4 syrups made by Maiden Pharmaceuticals based in northern India. According to the UN, lab testing revealed unacceptable levels of potentially life-threatening contaminants.
In a sports news today, tens of thousands of Moroccans thronged to the capital on Tuesday to welcome home their national football team, the first Arab or African squad ever to reach the semi-final of a World Cup.
The Moroccan team and their coach Walid Regragui waved from an open-topped bus as they were driven from the airport and around central Rabat, accompanied by dozens of police cars and motorbikes with flashing lights and wailing sirens. The crowd cheered and some waved flares as fireworks crackled in the sky over the seaside capital. Adam Najjar, a 27-year-old waiter from the city of Meknes, said that he was so proud of their team and hoped that maybe next time they could win the cup. He said he had traveled over 150 kilometers to experience this historic day and celebrate the beautiful story of Morocco at the World Cup. Many supporters, clad in the team's kits and waving red flags, had waited hours to see their heroes. Morocco finished top of a group including Croatia and Belgium, who came third at the 2018 World Cup before knocking out Spain and Portugal to reach the last four. The Atlas Lions lost Saturday's third-place playoff 2-1 against 2018 runners-up Croatia, but captured the imagination in Qatar.
Thank you so much for being a low audience. For more we started from, don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. We should keep updating you. It is TV Africa, the right to know.